See, so I want people to understand how the racists think. What did I just say about that LBJ comment? So you take Tommy Tuberville, United States Senator, dumbass former football coach, also, of course, now running for governor. So he goes on this right-wing show, this guy, Benny Johnson. And I want y'all to listen to what he says, but I want y'all to listen to how the word inner city is being used. Inner city, listen to how it's being used. I wonder who Tommy's talking about when he uses this phrase. Listen.
Yeah, I've spoken several times with Tom Homan, who is basically running the inner city ICE programs. And, he told me, he said he's been pushed at every corner when he goes to these big cities. I'm sure if you get a mayor like this that takes over, it'll even be worse. And that's when you can stop the federal funding. You can do anything. President Trump can do anything he wants when it comes to federal. Again, these inner city rats, they live off the federal government. And that's one reason we're $37 trillion in debt. And it's time that we find these rats and we send them back home that are living off the American taxpayers that are working very hard every week to pay taxes.
Yes.
Allow me to run that back again.
Yeah, I've spoken several times with Tom Homan, who is basically running the inner city ICE programs. And, he told me, he said he's been pushed at every corner when he goes to these big cities. I'm sure if you get a mayor like this that takes over, it'll even be worse. And that's when you can stop the federal funding. You can do anything. President Trump can do anything he wants when it comes to the federal. Again, these inner city rats, they live off the federal government. And that's one reason we're $37 trillion in debt. And it's time that we find these rats and we send them back home that are living off the American taxpayers that are working very hard every week to pay taxes.
Yes.
Really, Tommy? Tommy, did you just sit here and declare the inner city rats living off of the federal government? Did you just sit here, Tommy, and talk about who's sucking up federal funds? Is that what you just did, Tommy?
Yes, he did.
Tommy, have you ever looked at your state? See, I mean, when somebody says that, when somebody says, how you taking money, and what you doing, you might want to grab a mirror, Tommy. Do y'all know that one of the most, I'm going to use Tommy's language, rat-infested states in America is Alabama? Anthony, go to my iPad. Federal transfers to Alabama governments. Now, y'all, this is 2017 to 2022. Well, you look at that. You see 2017, slightly higher in 2018, higher in 2019, higher in 2020, higher in 2021, higher in 2022. Wow! Tommy! Your own state sucks up so much federal money. This here, y'all, is from March 10th, 2025, from the Alabama Policy Institute. Headline, Alabama must limit dependence on the federal government. So when you go through this breakdown here, Alabama is consistently ranked as one of the most federally dependent states in the nation. Rats, rural rats. According to data from usaspending.gov, Alabama received over $66 billion in federal funding last year. This includes over $36 billion in direct payments to Alabamians, $17.3 billion in contracts awarded within the state, and nearly $13 billion in grant awards to state agencies. In 2024 alone, grant awards accounted for nearly 32% of all of Alabama's state government revenues. The Alabama Medicaid Agency received more than $6.4 billion from the federal government, with the State Department of Transportation and Department of Education each receiving more than $1.2 billion in federal grants. One problem with being so heavily reliant on the federal government is that state funding may shift. State funding may shift based on the priorities of one presidential administration to another. Moreover, though, there's a perception that federal dollars are free money. They are not. Each dollar that the federal government sends back to state and local governments in the form of direct payments, grants, etc., represent taxpayer dollars that hardworking Alabamians have paid to the Treasury. Federal money also always comes with strings attached. There are several recent examples of this. Tommy, your broke-ass state desperately needs federal money. And you trying to talk about these anesthetic rats, they sitting here taking federal dollars, the taxpayers, the hard-earned money, and we need to send them back. Well, where we going to send y'all asses to? Tell me, Tommy. Where we going to send all them broke-ass white people in Alabama who are mooching off the federal government, Tommy? See, y'all, this is the hypocrisy. Do y'all now understand why I keep saying that Democrats should have the courage to go to the brokest, sickest, whitest, reddest states in America and go there and tell them, y'all are the brokest, sickest, whitest, reddest people in the country. And literally read stuff like this to them. Because see, y'all, here's the problem. Tommy Tuberville, who don't even live in Alabama, his ass live in Florida. That's another story. See, when they recite this stuff, that's right, Tommy, you tell them. You tell them, Tommy. Tommy, you right. All them rats, they sitting here living off our hard-earned dollars. They out there, we busting our butts to pay our taxes. And them inner city rats, them inner city meaning brown, them inner city meaning black, them inner city rats, all they do is take our money. Nope. It's the broke-ass white people in Alabama, in Mississippi, and Tennessee, and Arkansas, and South Carolina, and West Virginia who've been sucking up federal dollars. But they never seem to call them rats. Do you not hear the coded language in this Omekongo?
I mean, that's why my next book is actually going to be called Trigger Words. And it looks at how these leaders and so-called leaders use language to sow division and keep people at each other, chomping at each other's bits because of this coded language. I hadn't heard this video. And so I thought when it started playing that the only trigger word that you were talking about was going to be inner city. But then he went straight to rats and mentioned it multiple times. And he also gave us something here that the blueprint that this goes to what I was saying in the last segment. The blueprint that they are using is like, we're using our own streaming networks, our own podcasts, our own quote fake news networks like Fox to get the message out. And so he said Tom Homan is running our inner city program. And that's what all of those guys in rural America are going to be hearing. All of those guys in red states are going to be hearing. They're not going to be hearing the facts that you just laid out, or the fact that states like California and New York basically carry states like Alabama and Mississippi. And they're not going to hear any of that. And this is one of the reasons why in this ugly bill, they're looking at having carve-outs for rural hospitals that are going to close without this particular type of assistance. But those folks out in rural America aren't hearing that as well. The arrogance of this man who built this whole career off of black players from the inner city to be able to get out there and basically call people in those communities rats, to use these words to help, these trigger words to help build up his own persona and this ugly bill. This should tell everybody everything. But too many people who don't watch people like Tuberville don't know that this language is being put out there so blatantly and so arrogantly and so racistly. And so I'm so glad that you put it out there for us to see, because they've taken everything off. Following Stephen Miller's lead, following Trump's lead, they feel like they can be as racist and ignorant as what they want to be and use as much coded and triggered language as possible. It's all lies, but they feel like it's working to help them with their base, who's about to find out.
You got to be a pretty damn arrogant fool, Larry, to whine about folks spending federal money when your state is the sixth most sucking up state in America.
Well, Roland, it goes to my point earlier when I used the Wizard of Oz as an example. Listen, they have created a ecosystem in which they use, racist stereotypes that existed for years and constantly feed people imagery, wording to reinforce these ideas that their parents, grandparents, and now many of these voters believe that they're being robbed of something. But what we're being robbed of is our humanity. That's what's really happening here. And listen, the words he used are not surprising. Because this is the same language that's been used for centuries, particularly when it comes to people of African descent, to dehumanize us. And so when you connect that with the dramatic cut in federal funding, grants, empowering ICE, and we're seeing increasingly in minoritized communities, individuals going to the minoritized community. And now we know Tuberville is running for governor. So he shifted from senator to governor, even though he's not qualified for either. And like you say, he's more of a Florida resident than he's an Alabama resident. But once again, when you got a certain background, those things are ignored. And he can use language like that and not be called out by it. I don't know if any local papers in the state of Alabama have called him out for the explicitly racist language we use. And obviously we're talking about on this platform, but I heard about it before you talked about it. But this should be a national story. But Tuberville doesn't care because he thinks that there's not a price to pay. And I think that's what's really important here. In Alabama has a large black population. But even with that said, he doesn't think there's a political price to pay, even though he wants to continue he has political aspirations. So the question really is why is people like Tuberville able to get away with making things like that? What does it mean for America? And also to your point about how Alabama and some other states or Mississippi are far more dependent on the federal government. They take more than they give. What does it mean when this reconciliation bill passes and they find out over the next 2 to 3 years that they don't have the funding that they needed in a lot of programs, universities, et cetera, pay the price?
Well, it's just hilarious to me listening to these fools, how shameful, despicable they are, how they're sitting here talking about federal spending, deficits, who's spending money, when it's these white conservatives who are just sucking up federal money. And they about to learn. If this bill passes, you are about to see some MAGA tears. They're gonna be crying more than all them Latinos, Cubans, Venezuelans who voted for Trump, and now their husbands and wives and cousins and friends are getting deported. This is not what we voted for. Yes, it is.
Yeah, what happened was they just thought other people were going to be hurt Okay, they didn't care. You know, it's all about the cruelty, but they thought the cruelty was going to be against somebody else. Okay, so what we have to understand is that that's very racist, loaded wording that Tommy Tuberville used, because rats are varmints, and rats and vermins are pests that are undesirable. Okay, they produce rapidly, they damage property, they carry diseases, things of this nature. So now
all the same stuff Trump said about undocumented folk coming in America.
Yep. So now what he's saying is he says Tom Homan, who also wrote part of Project 2025 and is Trump's border czar, he's saying now Tom Homan can go into these inner cities, round these people up, etc., lock them up. Okay, this is the playbook. Now, when you combine that with unleashing the police, okay, and I'm telling you right now, you're about to hear stories of black people who are U.S. citizens who unjustly get arrested because ICE thinks they are undocumented immigrants. Because you have people that live in mixed status homes. Nobody wants to talk about that. You have people who live in mixed status homes where some people are U.S. citizens and other people are documented immigrants. Okay, so this is about to get really ugly. But Alabama has a 15% poverty rate. Okay, and yes, you are correct. They take more in federal funding than they actually contribute in federal taxes, as do a lot of these former Confederate states. Okay, so things are about to get really, really ugly in this country, especially for MAGA, especially for Trump supporters. Hashtag, we tried to tell you.
Well, folks are going to learn. And
hopefully you learned a lot. This is a post that I did a few years ago dealing with Juneteenth, because after the death, after George Floyd was murdered, May 25th, 2020, that next month, Juneteenth was celebrated, and a lot of people learned about Juneteenth. A lot of African Americans learned about it who really didn't know about it, especially up north, because we were dealing with COVID. A lot of people were home, and Juneteenth took on a new meaning. I did this post on Facebook. I said reparations, the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, voting rights, etc., are all connected to Juneteenth and the history of what happened after the Civil War. Okay, America needs a massive history lesson. So happy Juneteenth, happy Texas Emancipation Day, Jubilee Day, Freedom Day, and the fight continues. Hopefully you learned a lot from this presentation. You can support the African History Network, $, the AHN show through Cash App. Visit my website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, and just scroll down the page. We have information. We have my bundle pack of my lectures, 15 DVD bundle pack, and it's in digital download format. African History Awakens the African Mind for Mental Death. But also you can register for my online classes that I teach as well, Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, Understanding the Transatlantic Slave Trade, what they didn't teach you in school. You can download the lesson plan here. I do that on Saturdays, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But we also have my PayPal and Cash App information here. Okay, so this helps us keep doing the research, stay on the air, keep broadcasting, and you can click on the link here. This is our Cash App account, $, the AHN show. It'll say Michael. It'll probably show my picture there. These other ones are fake African History Network Cash App accounts. They've been stealing money from us. I'm still trying to get them shut down. When you click on our link here, this is our QR code for Cash App as well. So you can scan that if you want to support us. We definitely need the support that helps us keep doing the research, stay on the air, keep broadcasting, etc. And then also for PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN show. All right. Well, look, we have to get out of here. Remember, at the African History Network, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world, because right now it's corrects wrong behaviors, not over till we win. Wakanda forever. We'll talk to you next time. Peace. Thanks for watching today. Thanks for the birthday wishes as well. Okay. I guess 54 years went by quickly, I guess. So I don't feel any different today. I've lost, 35 pounds in the last couple of years, so I can fit back into clothes I haven't been able to fit back into in years. I worked out this morning, so I'm staying in shape. Okay. All right. Talk to y'all later. Peace.